Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good to have you here.
Thank you.
Good. Maybe to our audience who don't know about you, maybe introduce yourself and what you do at Tatu.
Well, thank you. My name is Solomon Mahinda, Executive Vice President of Tatu City. I've been with the project since the beginning, almost going 15, 16 years now. So I pretty much look after and support the organization management in terms of stakeholder relations, government relations, internal and external stakeholder relations as well.
Okay, interesting. You know, when I usually have these conversations and we talk about Tatu, we joke that you guys provide government as a service, which is ideally true because you built the infrastructure.
Spot on.
Right?
Yes.
And there's been a big, it's massive, the difference between where you guys started off and where it is at the moment, especially on the business side. Could you just, share a bit of what you guys have done, especially to onboard businesses into the Tatu City?
It's been a long journey, and interestingly, it's just beginning. You rightfully say that we almost perceived to be offering government services, but we're just pretty much offering a different level of governance, of management, of enforcing certain ways and certain philosophies that we believe urban development, urban cities, urban living spaces and industrial spaces need to be. We strongly believe that what we are doing here is not just what Kenya needs, not just what Africa needs, but actually what the world needs. Our perspective is very global, and that's why we are very focused in bringing international best standards in terms of urban design, urban development into the projects that we operate in.
There are about 100 businesses already set up here. A bunch of them, of course, local and some international. What would you say has led towards that shift, of people relocating to such cities? In your view, what's leading to that particular trend?
Well, there's been a deficit of well-planned, well-managed spaces, not just to do business, but to encompass how life is developing, from individuals to families to businesses to employees. Right now, why you rightfully say we now have over 100 companies that are domiciled here is because a majority of these companies have been looking for growth. They have been looking for expansion. Where they have been over the years is places like industrial area or other places where the spaces have been limited. Now, it's not just an issue of the physical space, there's also the supporting infrastructure that these kind of enterprises and businesses look for to facilitate and catalyze their existing business and their growth plans in terms of the road network, in terms of power, in terms of water, in terms of logistics, connectivity. Where they are now, it's almost reached a plateau. There's no more space to grow. So when there are alternatives or options such as Tatu City and other spaces that are spread out across the country, and when they have this programs such as special economic zones, they meet naturally. It's a natural fit for their growth plans and their expansion plans. So that addresses the question: is why are we having this kind of interest or demand for these spaces? Because well-planned, well-designed, international standard spaces for growth are not really existent in this part of the world.
Also, the other thing that I noticed, I think when you guys started, initially it was a lot more manufacturing type of companies, but now there is a bit more, even more service-based companies. One of my favorite companies, I won't mention the name, operates out of here, operates 24/7, probably the biggest employer of Gen Zs, and supermarkets coming up. Do you see a lot more of that type of service-based firms moving towards Tatu as you guys move to the next phase?
Yes, that is it's a natural progression of modern business, modern urban centers, where the main attractive aspect of this is the mixed use. When you talk about mixed use, it's really that whole lifestyle, the ecosystem in where people can live, work, and play. Where you go to work is not so far from where you live, is not so far from where you have your social amenities, is not so far from where your children go to school. That integration really is what is attracting a diverse form of enterprises and businesses, where you have the manufacturing, yes, you have the services, yes, but you also have other things that support that in terms of the residents, in terms of the schools, and that becomes a very attractive, product to people who are looking to invest or set up here. I must also add that it's not just about those kind of, that ecosystem being available, but the underlying regulatory policy and framework to support that kind of offering and integration where businesses can then thrive.
Okay, interesting. For a lot of businesses that are still thinking about relocating, especially now that the infrastructure is there and everything is ready, what will you say are the biggest misconceptions that they think around things like logistics or market access that's making them not make that decision to relocate?
You rightfully say misconceptions. I think it's not about relocating. There's businesses don't just decide that we're going to move from point A to point B. This is by the time they reach that decision, there is a whole lot of process and motivation and drive towards that direction. And from what we've seen is more driven by these businesses wanting to grow, and they have reached a point where they need to expand, but also they are looking for where is that space that supports not just their business, but everything else that is around their business. Is it safe? Is it well managed? Is there consistency of planning? This master plan that we have here is something that we protect and prioritize its execution, because that is what, as master developers, that is what safeguards the investments of our investor. So when they believe in and come and see that truly what we're executing here is according to what we have said and what we've promised and what we have stuck through, and they see that we have such a long-term view of what it is that we are developing here, that builds a lot of confidence. It builds a lot of credibility, and they trust that investing here is the best place for them to also secure their growth and expansion. As mentioned, also that whole special economic zone aspect is something that supports their businesses in terms of the tax incentives, in terms of the market access. But also, if you're a businessman and you're sitting there and trying to look for that place that is going to meet your needs, you also want to look at access to quality labor, and that labor, how do they get to your to work? What are the facilities? What are the amenities that are supporting that? And then you start seeing how we are becoming more and more attractive to those kind of people who are seeking to move from wherever that they are.
Okay. Interesting. I'll just give a bit of some examples of the companies, for example, that have set up and grown. So Full Care Medical, I think there are about 10 to 70 acres with over 8,000 jobs. And then, our tellers, I think they are backed by FC to a tune of around $20 million. Cold Solutions, and a bunch of many others. From an SEZ perspective, I believe you guys have more SEZ companies set up here, more than any other place around the country. And I think that for me that's quite significant. What will you say from a policy standpoint has been able to attract some of these businesses have been able to attract some of these businesses from an SEZ standpoint?
Well, SEZ framework was brought in to support the aspect of increasing foreign direct investment. Now, that is what the Kenya government has really tried to facilitate using this platform by generating the right policy, the right framework where businesses can enjoy exemptions in terms of tax. They can enjoy market access because of the supporting frameworks within SEZ. It's not just about tax benefits. It's also aspects to do with access to government services that have been now brought closer to where they are. For example, here we have the one-stop shop where officers from Kenya Revenue Authority, Kenya Bureau of Standards, the Ministry of Lands are seconded here to process some of the requirements that are required for them to do business. What does that mean? For example, as Tatu City, we are gazetted as a project of strategic national importance. We are also gazetted as a project as a special planning area. What that then means is that the investors here have direct access. They don't have to go to the government offices to have government services attended to there. The government comes to where they are, which is here. And some of these things are a very big plus for someone, especially foreign direct investors who are visitors, so to say, and they just want to focus on doing business. And that is what we have really become good at as Tatu City, is that we take out that headache of the administrative aspect of getting set up. We hold our clients' hands from wherever they are in the world. We help them come here, help them settle, to the very mundane aspects of even opening a bank account or directing them to the right legal lawyers. And therefore, they feel that you've lifted a heavy burden from them that makes them focus on their business. And when you bring all these aspects together, they then build that confidence to expand. For example, Full Care that you mentioned, for example, initially they came in and set up their plant in 20 acres. And that was the fastest we've seen a plant from scratch come up, that they took a record 9 months to become operational. Now, because of the confidence and how we partnered and how we assisted them, they felt, okay, now we can expand to another 70 acres. And you see, it's not really about what we'd think about pricing or what. It's about how have we made it easy for them to set up and do business. Now, that expansion, as a result of that, we'll be having about 8,000 jobs that have been created within a span of, 24 months? That's what we really want to see happening, not just here, but across the country.
Okay, interesting. And when you talk about that, a lot of people think that Tatu on the industrial side is just for big businesses. Most of them are not aware that you also have an offering for SMEs, especially on the warehousing side, the link warehousing, which I believe is also one of the fastest growing products within the business side. Maybe could you just mention around what you were doing on the warehouse leasing through Link, and the opportunities for smaller businesses, that are keen to start small and grow without, buying full acreages, or hundreds of acres, for example.
It was interesting in our earlier conversation where you mentioned about democratizing infrastructure, democratizing industry. That's a very interesting concept. It's the same analogy we'd use. We felt, and from research, we went out there and we appreciated that not every investor, not every SME can afford to buy a piece of land to set up their industry. So we did come up with that product, the Link, where we develop world-class warehousing supported by a world-class infrastructure, and we made it available for that particular target audience. And it is now almost is 90% taken up. In fact, that has been one of the products that has performed so well that we are now going into phase 2 of that of that link expansion, where these SMEs or even smaller do not have to come and purchase a piece of land, but they have got access to world-class warehousing, world-class infrastructure. They enjoy the SEZ incentives. They have access to the other big players in and around them. They can conduct business within the zone, within themselves. They still enjoy the market access. And even now, because of those learnings, we have also made smaller parcels of land available for purchase by these SMEs. We initially we thought, and the perception has been, for you to set up a factory, you need a minimum of 5-10 acres. Now we are selling about quarter acres, half acres, 1 acres to these industries, and it is doing very, very well. So this is something we are going to continue to pursue to address that particular market.
Okay. Yes. And from a pricing standpoint, could you give an estimate for someone purchasing or for someone leasing the warehousing?
It would range. It would range, and why I'd say it would range is because we're not just selling land; we are selling master planned land, meaning it depends on what business you want to come and conduct. So if you're coming to set up either a service, maybe a school, or maybe a certain level of the type of industry, there's a certain precinct within the home master plan where you're zoned for, and the prices are different. Yeah, but on average, I would say probably between $100, $150, $160, $170 per square meter.
Oh, per square meter.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. I think one of my favorite things that you guys have done with the city is the environment has been, well maintained. The animals, the trees specifically, and still there's a big chunk of the land which is still, coffee. Just curious to know, how have you guys, embedded sustainability into the entire operation and the entire city?
So one facet that is in our DNA across the 6 cities we are developing across the continent is the aspect of green spaces. When you talk about sustainability, it's not just about, for us, it's not just about the environment. It's sustainability is also about how we are integrating with the community that is within and around us, how we are integrating with natural habitats of either indigenous or living, or the botany and zoology of the spaces that we operate in. We are very deliberate, and this is right from the top, from the founders to the board, that wherever we are required to set up or to allocate green spaces in our master planning, we go beyond the required threshold. For example, if we are required to set up or designate 20% of our master plan area to green spaces, we'll be designating around 20-22%, way above what is required, because we believe that is what the projects that we are doing are not just for now, but for the generations to come. And that is the same philosophy we are also applying in terms of how we engage with the community, how we engage with other aspects of culture in the various ways that the various projects that they are very well integrated in our, not just our master plan, but in the design and execution of what it is that we're doing.
One of the facts that I learned recently was that Tatu City, the Ruiru now, the town, is probably one of the fastest growing cities.
It's the 6th fastest growing town in Africa.
Right?
Yes.
And then best of the population is young. And I felt that for any business that's trying to set up here, they have already market labor, the labor side of things. So just curious, how has the community benefited, both from, the job opportunities, even beyond the indirect side of it. So maybe how do you think the entire community has benefited just by Tatu being here?
That's a very good question, and it is one of the major motivations that makes us do what we do. About 5 years ago, we had about 5,000 people working in Tatu City. Right now, we have over 25,000 people who are working in Tatu City. And that for us really is one of the reasons why we are doing what we are doing. Now, a majority, obviously, of those people who are in those 25,000 people live in the city and in the outskirts, which is Ruiru, Kiambu, Thika, Nairobi, just the whole radius that is in and around Tatu City. Now, they have to live somewhere. There have been a lot of people who've value of land has grown and continues to grow that are not even in Tatu City. Those in Tatu City have a very good, almost return on investment, which is guaranteed because of the governance and what we've put in internally, but also externally. Those people who are also here before, because of the investments that are here, it's not just about jobs. We now have about 6 schools that are within Tatu City, two private and 4 public schools. All those, that whole population with about 6,000 students now are coming from the community. When you talk about aspects to do with water, we also about to do with security, aspects to do with internet, the kind of infrastructure that we have put, for example, in providing internet services to the city, we have expanded to outside the city. So there are people who are enjoying internet thanks to Fahari Link, which is owned by Tatu City. And this is just an example of some of these benefits. We have a police post, Tatu Police Post, that is within Tatu City that serves the general public. We've got hospitals that have come here. AR is here, Kurafa, that serve other members of the public. We've got about 4 banks that are now here. Majority of their customers are outside of the city. When there are issues to do with either insecurity in the community outside there, or accidents on our roads, the ambulances and the medical staff that are on standby here, we deploy them to assist the general public. So there's a lot that we benefit from the community, and they also benefit from us, and that is why that coexistence is very critical for our growth and development.
Okay, interesting. From a global standpoint, when you think around the investments that have been put into the city, of course financially, probably, which I believe is probably more than or closer to $3 billion or even more.
I think we're now hitting about $4
billion.
Yes.
That's massive.
Yes.
That's probably the largest scale investments in Kenya. Probably can't think of any other large scale investment.
I think we can confidently say we are currently the home of the largest FDI in the country.
Yeah. What message does that send to an international investor looking at setting up in Africa and in Kenya, or using Kenya as their hub to grow across the continent?
That the fundamentals are right, that there is a stable foundation for growth. There's good systems that can catalyze and sustain their business interests over a long period of time. Granted, there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. But the trajectory that we are on now is much better than majority of places across the world. This is a place, and I'm not just talking about Tatu, I'm not talking about Kenya, I'm talking about probably Africa as a whole. It's not that this is going to be where the action is going to be happening. It is happening. And those who have been following keenly know that it is not something that is going to happen. It is happening. And those who are now moving in now are people who have read the signs, have done their homework, and they know that the right time to be setting up was yesterday, and not in the future.
Okay, interesting. That's good feedback. Having been, you said, since inception, that's 16 years, right?
Correct.
I mean, that's such a it's quite a it's not a short period of time. I'm sure you've seen the ups and downs from a government or stakeholder standpoint. What do you think needs to be done well to improve the investor confidence and to attract more businesses or more setups like that, for example?
As you rightfully say, what we've seen over the years has been very positive change, very positive view. What we really need to do is to appreciate that we are not competing with neighboring countries. No, we are competing with global places where investors have options to set up. When you're sitting here in Kiambu County, whether in Mombasa County or in the western part of the country or the Nyanza in the north and the south, that investor you're competing with countries like the Philippines, like Vietnam, India, for that decision, for that investor to bring the investment here. So that is something that as a country, as government, I think we need to apply ourselves more to make us more globally competitive in terms of our regulatory framework, our policy environment, our projection in terms of being more long-term in our views, in our regulatory and policy framework, because that is where the competitive edge is going to be.
In your experience, of course, working at Tatu, what has been the most challenging decision yet rewarding that you made during the 16-year period?
Well, I think that's not a very difficult question. The one has been the most challenging and most rewarding is making decisions with a 20, 30, 40, 50 year outlook. If you ask me that question 15 years ago, 10 years ago, it would have been very difficult. Yeah? It is why you almost tend to make a decision with a much shorter time view. But those decisions we've made in terms of our infrastructure, making sure that our water reticulation, our energy, our power around the investments that we've put around infrastructure of our roads, which are very capital intensive, and we did them early, is what is paying off now. Those decisions we made in taking more time on the planning and less time on really selling. This is what we are now benefiting, and this is what our investors are now really riding on now, because they are meeting a ready product. It is not something that we are saying we are going to do. They come and they say it has been done, and therefore it is plug and play. That has really been a significant plus.
If you could give an entrepreneur advice with regards to relocating or with considering relocating to Tatu City, what sort of advice would you give that particular entrepreneur?
I would say it's good that they're thinking about it. It's good that they are, working, and I encourage them to actually go out and see what else is there. Yeah, and then come and compare with what it is that you see here. And I also encourage them to hasten their decision, because we are demand driven, we are market driven. So we have found ourselves in situations where there is demand, but the product is running out. So if I was an entrepreneur, I would be a bit more efficient in how I am making my decision to move.
What would you say was the best investment you've ever made in yourself?
Putting myself in a mindset of continuous learning. I always say that I start from a point of I know nothing. And from that point, I always end up knowing something, as opposed to the other way around. So that is something, and in this space that we work in, everything is changing, not every day, not every week, but literally every minute. Because remember, we are we are a mixed use, mixed environment, huge, massive development, with dealing with all sorts of sectors and industries and people. So that aspect of just being curious and enjoying it is something that has really benefited my journey.
Okay, interesting.
Yes.
Now to a young professional who's looking to go into the industrial space like you, what sort of advice will you give them?
Be bold.
Okay.
Be bold. Get out there. Build with intention. Execute with purpose.
Nice.
And just get out there and let what you're looking for find you ready.
Okay.
Because that is the world really is their oyster.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. Thanks, Solo. I really appreciate. My key takeaway personally is, both personally and from what you guys have done at Tatu, execute with purpose.
Execute with purpose.
Nice. Thanks, man. I
Thank you,
appreciate
sir.
it.
Thank you very much. Good.